One, welcome to Rhythm and Roads podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Jacob. This is part two with Illiana Villalpando. She was sharing an incredible story on episode one, and so I wanted to bring her back and share part two. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's so funny. I always tell people, I'm like, my life is like this massive puzzle. So I'm like, it's kind of hard to put it in 45 minutes, but thank you
Right?
for
I was just
having
like,
me for part two. I am excited to just tell people a little bit more about everything that involves around me.
right. And yes. And after hearing your journey and the incredible life experience that you almost died of, just were at a point that woke you up to see that you needed to live your life the way you needed to. I'm just like
Yeah.
to do part two, and here we are. So,
So one thing that I wanted to kind of like not piggyback on, but just kind of reiterate from that is that you don't have to wait until you're dying to get to that level, you
mm,
know?
mm,
You don't have to wait until you have these crazy circumstances in order for you to do something.
mm,
A lot of people they get moved out of desperation,
mhm,
but moving out of desperation is also not the place that you want to do things, you know?
mhm,
Because I will say this much, after the whole accident happened, like I really had to focus not just on my diet and on myself, like I still had a whole family to take care of. And
mm,
that's the part that a people like it's hard to put into words how you're going to not just take care of your family because now I had this whole family that was against me. My family was like, "What do you mean we're gonna eat carrots?" When they're used to steak and potato chips, And so, those are the parts of your life that you're just like, you know what? You still got to stay focused and be like, you know what? We're gonna make our whole family part of this journey, whether they like it or not.
right,
And it starts within your family, especially your immediate family. If you're a parent, you will have to have that point in time where you sit down with your family and say, I'm doing this, I'm going through this, and I need your support
right.
because I can't do this if you guys it's one thing when you're met with, you're met with restriction, but
Mhm.
it's another thing where you're met with restriction. You see what I mean? And it's one thing hitting the wall and one thing where the wall is fighting you, And
Yeah,
so
no, yeah.
so I also want to take those things into consideration because a lot of people sometimes like they see my life now and they're like, "Oh, your life is perfect. You do this and you do that." And they don't get like I struggled like crazy to get to this point. I had to work my ass off countless days. There were days where I didn't sleep, I would wake up, get to work and just immediately like 2, 3, 4 days without sleeping.
Wow.
And there are times where I forgot to eat because I was so focused on my goals. But that's the thing is like everyone has a different goal. The only thing is that stops us from that is mediocre people that don't see it for themselves, so they try to crash someone else's dream. Um, but yeah, you ask me questions, I'll answer.
Oh, that's fine. Well, yeah, so thank you so much for getting to that point of just knowing that we family is important. And the thing is, yes, family does need to support and be there, but there are some times when family will not support. They will not be there for you,
Yeah.
be on the
And you know
journey with you.
what?
Yeah.
It's perfectly okay when that happens, because one thing I have realized too, like with all the projects that I have, some things they don't apply to my family. My mom, she doesn't really care for podcasting. She'll see the show, but she's not going to be out there promoting it because it's not something that's part of her
Mm.
lifestyle. So we also can't hold our family and friends to be like, well, why are they not helping me? Why are they not sharing me? Why are they It's not really their job to do that. If they want to, they will. And if they do, then you know what? Be grateful for the people that you do have. I will say this much, like the people that are around me that do help me, I take them and I hold them so dear to my heart because they could be doing other things and yet they take their time to support the things that I'm doing. So to all of those people that are watching this that know that they're in my lives, like I am so incredibly grateful for everyone because also you can work as hard as you want, but what's his name? Simon Sinek says it best. Together is better. Together is better.
There you go.
And you can get to where you want to by yourself, but to get to those massive mountains, you're gonna need a team.
Yeah.
And one thing I have realized is like at the beginning stages of my career, I learned how to get to certain levels with myself.
Hmm.
But at some point, I had to realize, like, you know what, Ilana, you're not going to get there until you have an assistant, until you have people that you're delegating things to, because you can't do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
Now, granted, again, in the beginning stages, if you, for example, I use myself as an example as a brand. I am going to be the photographer. I am the makeup artist. I am the hairstylist. I am the designer. I am the photographer, the videographer, the marketing agent, the SEO. You're going to learn
And
everything,
all the
but you
hats.
need, yeah, you got to wear all the hats in the
Yeah.
beginning. And that's when it comes to entrepreneurship, you got to be okay with that. You got to, and because that's the thing is that like, I'm not knocking anybody on a 9 to 5, but the thing is that 9 to 5 people, they're used to just clocking in, doing the job that they're told, and then they clock out and their job ends.
Mm.
As an entrepreneur, your job never ends. It
Hmm.
never ends because even after you've done all of the things that you need to do, you still need to network your products.
Hmm.
You need to still find clients. You
Hmm.
still need to go out there and put out whatever it is that you're selling. So your job isn't like where you can just stop and say, "Oh, I'm going to take a break right now." As entrepreneurs, we never have
Yep.
that opportunity to just
Right.
stop. We
No.
don't. And you got to be okay with that. You got to be okay. Like I always say, you got to be uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just
True.
learned to make
Very true.
my uncomfortable, how do I say this? I learned to make my uncomfortability into a job so
Mm.
that I'm always comfortable at this point. And like I said, sometimes I got to shake myself off and say, I'm going to do something completely that's not what I'm used to,
Right.
just so that I reset my focus and my mind so that I don't go back into this limited perspective in myself.
Yeah. Well said. And that's the thing is it is very uncomfortable when you're an entrepreneur. I've never done it, of
Yes.
course. I mean, but I have some friends that are, and yeah, they're just saying it's definitely not an easy road,
It's
but
not.
because they know they're doing something that they love and they're
Yes,
that huge sacrifice. So,
yes.
speaking of, just again, thank you for sharing the journey from the start on this. But now that I know that you're also a singer, and I mean, I want to get to that as well and talk about that. And then also, you're a host of the Echoes and Aesthetics. So, can we kind of plug that in?
Yeah. So I'll try and see if I can get this done as quickly as possible because I know we have limited time. Um, So I actually I started singing when I was 4 years old. I had a cognitive issue when I was a child. I did struggle with ADHD, and I was a high functioning autistic child. It wasn't until age 30. A lot of things happened to me at age 30 besides almost dying. I was also diagnosed with Asperger's. For years, I didn't know that I had issues with my cognitive abilities until I was clinically found, I had all these issues that I wasn't even aware of. And
Wow.
so back to when I was 4,
Yeah.
I was actually put into choir classes because I wasn't speaking.
Hmm.
Um, the first time that I did speak wasn't spoken words, it was a song. I was taken to a church choir, and basically, when you go to like those old school Latin churches, they have a room where they take all the kids and either they teach them songs or they give them Bible study. I just happened to be lucky to go into a room where they had some people that were teaching kids how to sing.
Oh,
And
wow.
so at that point, like they gave me a piece of paper and I didn't know what the words meant, but I could listen to what they were saying and I could mimic what they were resonating.
Wow.
And so that day, I was 7 years old, by the way. I did, like I said, I started humming, kind of
Hmm.
singing when I was a little kid, but it was just gibberish.
Hmm.
I was trying to make a hold of words. People would give me papers. This is the word. And I remember I would like basically crap down because I didn't know how to put these words together. And
Oh.
people didn't realize till I was 7 when I was diagnosed that I was seeing the words wrong. I was also dyslexic. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, how my mom, she was like, how do we help her? Because I have a normal kid, but something in there is not clicking.
Mhm.
And so they just told her, put her in music and see where it goes. And so she intentionally put me into a choir when I was 7 years old. And I remember they gave me the paper. I didn't know what they were saying. I was just listening to what they were saying very intently. And then after everyone learned the song, the choir director said, "Who wants to try for the solo?" And I
Mhm.
had heard the lady do the solo, and I got up and I sang the solo, and everyone was quiet because they knew I didn't know how to read.
Mhm.
And everyone was like, "How did you just
Wow.
sing that?" And so the following Sunday, we go back to church and the choir comes out. They would basically do practice, then sing, practice, then sing.
Mhm.
And so the following Sunday, my mom wasn't even aware that I was about to sing a solo. And 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 it's crazy that the first solo that I ever sang was "Oh Happy Day." If you've ever
Oh,
seen
no way,
Sister
yeah?
Act Part 2. So
Yeah.
the part that the little boy sings is the part that I sang.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was like, "How the heck?" Like, and so how is she doing that? And so the choir director comes and he was like, "She just has this talent. Like, really, like, help her
Very
with it,
cool.
you know?"
Yeah.
And so after that, like I started singing in choirs literally my entire life. I've been in every church choir, gospel choirs, chamber choirs.
Dang,
So,
is that
you
right?
know,
Okay.
and so I went through that from elementary school all the way through college. And in college is where I ended up going to school and basically really understanding the fundamentals of music. And because of that, I'm glad to say I'm also a classically trained opera singer. So,
Is that right?
um,
No. Oh, that's so awesome.
yes. And so for years, I was able to perform with Italian artists in all kinds
Nice.
of opera houses and chambers. And
Very cool.
it was a beautiful experience to be able to do this throughout college.
Mhm.
But after pulling out of college and finishing, that's one thing that like I went back to corporate America and
Mhm.
completely fell away from my dream. And
Mhm.
so but that's how music started for me. And to this day I always say to people like if it weren't for music, I wouldn't even know how to read. I would probably be a kid right now under Social Security with
Wow.
no
Is that
ability to do
right?
anything. And so to me, music is so important because it's a gateway to our inner selves. It's a gateway to help others. It's a gateway for inspiration, for motivation. And to a lot of people, music is therapy.
Mm.
And so for me, I'm just like I'm always amazed at if it weren't for music, literally, I wouldn't even be here at this very moment right now.
And that's very true. Music does have a certain of a blessing to heal, help in a way that helps the soul and even
Yeah.
the mind. And even for me, sometimes when my mom passed away for almost 4 years ago, Christian music helped me a lot, but not just any Christian music or any artist. It was a certain band that when I would listen to it, it just spoke to me, you know?
Yeah.
It's just the words and the way they played. And it's just, I don't just go to any Christian artist or any worship song. No, I have a certain band or a certain group I go to when I need like some healing. I need, certain message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yes, music is
Yeah.
very powerful. And I love the fact that it does help a lot. Yeah. So, and well, thank you for sharing that. And that's the thing is like, learning so much about you. I'm all like, can we just meet in person? I could just tell me everything in person.
Of course.
I just love this, man. I'm all like, God, it's like new stuff every time we talk. It's like, God, but it's just incredible the fact how God has used you to be a vessel of a light. And despite everything you went through, here you are, and you are a light that is inspiring so many people through your journey. And it was not an easy journey for you. It wasn't handed
And
to
it,
you. You
it
almost
wasn't.
lost your life, and then here you told me you couldn't even talk, and God gave you a voice to sing, to say, I'm the one who created you. I'm gonna have you sing to be able to share words from your heart,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
beautiful. Wow.
The crazy part about my life journey is that like when I was in college, I did have to take, certain studies, and I had to learn how to also navigate with music and
Mhm.
teaching others about it. And so for 7 years of my life, while I was in college, I was also a choir director. So I'm happy to say that whoever my kids are out there that are seeing this, I'm like, I hope that one day I get to see them all again. But like I was a choir director for several churches in El Paso for
That's
seven
cool.
years.
Yeah.
And because of that journey, it opened up I want to say the humanitarian side of things with me.
Mhm.
I ended up jumping into basically ministry work and going out to other countries and teaching people music and creating choirs in other places. Um, I'm blessed that there was that moment in my 20s where I was able to go out to those countries. I was in Bolivia, I was in Jerusalem, I've been to the Dominican Republic, to
Oh,
almost
wow. Incredible.
every part of Mexico, Zacatecas, let's see, Zacatecas, Cancun, Puerto Peñasco, Veracruz, in Sinaloa. And all of these places have just been absolutely amazing to be out there, to come
Awesome.
out there and just provide music is healing,
Right.
and just inspiring those people to go out and do more with their lives.
That's awesome.
But that is one part of my life that I was missing so much. And I want to talk a little bit about my nonprofit organization because that's what inspired the
Okay.
nonprofit. So I also have a nonprofit organization called Pass the Dream Foundation, and the organization started back in 2016.
Oh.
Um, I tried my best to get it to where it was now, but I
Mhm.
ended up having to shut it down because it was just so difficult. Like I was being met with so much, I don't want to say anger, but getting into the school systems and trying to figure out how to work with them was just too difficult.
Wow.
And a part of me almost gave up on it. And 2 years ago, I had this like sense of I have to do this again. I have to do this again.
Hmm.
And I said, I'm going to build an entire new structure. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to start reaching out to people. And if they want to help me, then cool. And if they don't, I'm going to figure it out. And
Hmm.
so I started going to dance studios, to choirs in the city, and all these directors just started saying yes, 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 yes,
So
yes. And
cool.
I'm just
Wow.
like, okay, why is everyone saying yes? Like, and in a moment in my life, I'm just like, oh my God, this is happening, it's
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say, like, this past 2 years, we've helped over six different dance teams
Oh,
be
that is
showcased
awesome.
in massive
Yes.
arenas for performance. From the ticket sales, we provide them back with scholarships and grant money for their existing
Oh, good
organizations
for
so that
you
they can go
guys.
off and do whatever they need.
Yeah.
If
Good for
they're going out to competitions, if they need money for travel, if they need new costumes, if, they just need to pay their classes, like we help them with that.
yeah.
Um, and that's the focus of mostly, honestly, I'll be quite frank with you. I love doing everything that I do. I love my music. I love, fashion and all of that. But the only reason that I work the way that I work is so I can put back into my nonprofit. That is my passion.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it till, like I said, a few years ago. For me, my passion is helping people. I
Yeah.
want to see people shine. People always come to me and they're just like, you shine, you have this aura to you. I want people to have that aura too. I want
Mhm.
people to experience that for themselves. But the only way you can do that is if you inspire them. You
Right.
need to inspire something in them that motivates them to do it for themselves. But if we're around people that are constantly bringing us down, that's never going to happen.
Mhm.
So, Pass the Dream was literally created so that we can show kids, hey, I see your dream. Let me
Mhm.
pass it on
There you
so that
go.
that
That's
next
the
kid
dream.
can see it, and the next kid can see it, and the next kid can see it. And that way we just continue creating that chain cycle of goodness, of positivity, of love and light. Because right now, like, we live in a world that's crazy. It's run by commercialism, and it's capitalism and politics, And unfortunately, we live in this country. So I'm just like, hey, like let's make the best of what we can with what we have.
Right.
Um, but yes, if people, like I said, want to follow us, they can find us at Pass the Dream Foundation online, or they can go
Okay.
passthedreamfoundation.org. Um, we're always looking for people to continue to helping us. We just had our very first big collaboration. And actually, the collaboration that we just did was actually the beginning point back in 2016 that I
Oh, is
couldn't
that
find. I'm
right?
like, how could I do
Oh,
it? And basically, the foundation was to assist children to get into either dancing or singing collaborations with A-line celebrities.
oh, wow.
So I wanted to get these kids to either sing or dance
Yeah.
with like big pop stars, rappers, rock stars. And we just did it with Crystal Poppin. So
Oh, really? Okay. There you
kudos to
go.
Crystal. She's absolutely amazing. She has such a big and beautiful heart for also helping the community. I know she just helped out with Plant the Seed Foundation, which is my friend's nonprofit organization. Shout out to Wendy and Miguel. But Crystal has such a big heart and she's such a beautiful person,
Awesome.
because when her and I have talked, like her and I have almost the same childhood. We went through some crazy things in our childhood, but we didn't allow it to stop us and we didn't allow it to taint our hearts as kids. Um, and so the collaboration with her was with three dancers from our nonprofit. They're all through I'm sorry, they're through Urban Movement.
Okay.
They're a big dance academy here in El Paso, and I didn't think that she would ever say, "Hey, let's bring some dancers in," but she did, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"What the heck?" So these
It's
young
amazing.
ladies got the opportunity, and now they're in a music video that has over 1 million streams on
All
YouTube, over a
right. Good
million
for her.
streams on Spotify,
That's awesome.
and I
Wow.
can say like our nonprofit helped get those girls there,
That is awesome.
and
Congrats to
Crystal
that.
opened the doors for them and said, "Hey, let's put them on this music video." So
Dang.
if you want to go and look, you can go and find, champions with Paul Wall and Crystal Poppin. And if you look at those dancers, those are part of Pass the Dream Foundation, an urban dance movement academy. I'm proud of everybody and
That is
everything that they
awesome.
do, because that's literally what life should be about. It
That
should be
is, yeah.
about collaborating together.
Yep.
Because when we collaborate, we all get the job done, we all
Right.
get something done, and we all do it joyfully and happily.
Absolutely.
It was one of the easiest and most beautiful projects I've worked with. I
Wow.
always tell people when you're met with like, oh, well, you should do this and you should do that, and we should meet next week and then next month, and then it turns to next year.
Yeah.
This project was literally, she called me up and said on Friday, hey, can you get me a couple of dancers by Monday? And I'm like, girl,
Oh,
how are we gonna get choreography for
that's,
them by Monday?
geez.
And it was crazy, but like these little girls, like I have videos of them on our Instagram page. They didn't even know that they were dancing with her. They were just
Is
like,
that
they
right?
didn't know. I
Oh,
just
wow.
told
What a
their
surprise,
director,
huh?
here's a song. Don't tell them who it is.
Right. Yeah.
That they just need to learn the choreography. And the funny thing is, they showed that song to over 40 dancers, and those three girls were the only ones that created their choreography, not
Oh,
knowing that
wow.
they would be in a music video with Crystal
Yeah.
Poppin. And so
Very
when they
cool.
got there, we opened the doors. They were like, "Why are we in the UTEP Stadium?" And I said to them, I wish I could have gotten it on my phone right as
Yeah,
the
their expressions on
reaction,
their
but
face. Yeah.
yeah, but but the inside of the stadium was too dark, so we couldn't
Mhm.
catch it. But when I told them, I'm like, you're gonna perform with Crystal Poppin right now, they were just like, what? So they were just like, what?
Oh, wow.
And it was just an amazing experience to be able to give that to someone.
That is,
And I love the wow factor. So I'm just
yeah.
like, can I give more wow factors to people? Because it gets addictive.
Right, yeah, yeah. Their face, they're like, wait, what? Like, I'm doing this? Yeah. That's so
Yes,
awesome.
yes.
I love the title too, Past the Dream. That's just awesome. The title, I mean, with that title itself, it just, I mean, shares so much of value knowing that, yes, passing the dream is also saying, I'm willing to put aside my time that I have to help you with your dream, because we're all busy.
Yeah.
We have so much going on with our life, but if we give our time just to help someone else, even just for a bit, that goes a long way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And it's so crazy. Like our organization is basically comprised of always of tickets. We're
Mm,
always putting out the performances for these kids. And all I ask of the people in our community is buy a ticket, show up, and
mm,
show these kids that you value the work that they're doing,
mhm.
you know? And so that's all I ask of
Yeah.
people, you know, and we do it in an awesome setting. Southwest Stadium has opened their doors for us already
That's
four
good.
different times.
Oh, good for them.
While we've been there, like I said, we've showcased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We showcased six dance teams. We've showcased one choir, and myself, I've even sang the Star Spangled Banner with
Oh, you
them as
did. Oh,
yeah, and that was fun as well.
I bet.
But with everything that we're doing, I'm just like, we just need people to show up and give their energy. Sure, donations are cool and all, you know, but right now, like because we work in entertainment, we need eyes and
Mm,
we need seats. We
right.
need presence. We
Presence.
need
Yeah.
those
That's
people to
important.
just
Yeah.
be there, support it. And that's the part that even though it gets difficult, I get everyone has their times, their jobs, but when it comes to children, children are so simple. They
Mm,
just want your attention.
yeah.
That is it.
That's very true. They do. They want you. What's very important is that when they're there, the parents or the family members, it helps them believe because they're there to show that
Yeah,
they're there to show up when I need them, and I'm glad for that. And I get it. Sometimes parents or family members can't always be there because of work or other schedules. But every now and then, if you do show up to say, "Look, I'm here and to support you," it does go a long way. They will never forget that later on in life. They'll do that for their
exactly.
kids. Yeah.
Exactly. I,
Yeah.
I this is one thing that I've learned as a parent with my kids
Yeah.
is that your kids are not going to do what you tell them to do.
Right.
They're going to do what you've been showing them.
Yeah.
They emulate you. So that's why myself, like I always say, I give out my best. Because I want my kids to grow up believing they should also be doing the best.
Right. I totally agree. And so we have 7 minutes left on this podcast, part two. Uh,
I think we should talk about echoes and aesthetics now
yeah, I
then, I
think
guess.
so.
Yes. So, actually, so Echoes and Aesthetics was actually created last year, but we barely launched it this year. And honestly, it was created because of another podcast. So I was on one of my friend's podcasts,
Oh,
and
cool.
this producer came by, and you met Fabian. So
Mhm.
he worked with this major TV station through HBO, and after the interview with my friend's podcast, he came and he said. He's like, you know what? We've been looking for a new podcaster, and he's like, you're so eloquent with your words and you're so vibrant. Like, can we do something with you? So we did a pilot show back in August,
Okay.
and they were like, let me pitch it to our people. Let's see if they like it. And if they do, then we'll see you in January. And I got a call back in January and they
There you
said, we
go.
love it. He's like, so you got your podcast? And I'm just like, what?
Congratulations. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And so the part that I get excited about is like, man, I get to work in this bomb ass studio with this bomb ass people, and I'm just like, what? And but it proves to show is like when you give your best, you
Mhm.
also attract the best.
That's
And
true.
so I'm just
Mhm.
like, you know what, God, like God has something for everyone,
Mhm.
but we need to stop thinking mediocrity. We need to stop thinking limits because
Mhm.
God doesn't have limits. So why should
Right.
we?
Nope. That's very true. Yeah. Well said on that. And it's one thing is like, I remember, I don't know if you remember this little Bible history here, but when, where was it? I think when God said, oh, to Sarah, Abraham and Sarah. You remember that story?
Yes,
Okay. Where Sarah was supposed to have, or is supposed to have a baby at like age 90. And she
because
was
she couldn't have babies and
right. And
she
she,
almost gave up on the
right.
reality that she would ever
Exactly.
have a child. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's one thing I'm gonna say, and this is a great way to end this, is when God asked Sarah, and he's pretty much asking us, he says, "Is there anything too hard for the Lord that he cannot do?"
There's nothing.
And she just said, "No." He's like, "Well, then why did you laugh that I what I said that you were gonna have a baby at 90?" And God was not even there when she did that. She was in her tent, probably from the story. So God knows already, but he just says, "Why did you laugh then?" As in like disbelief. And he asked her that one question, just, "Is there anything too hard for the Lord that he cannot do?" And that's a question for all of us. When we ask, is there why?
Yeah.
And the thing is with life, it's very hard to understand sometimes certain situations. Why did my mom pass from cancer when she loved God with all her heart? Why certain things happen in our life, like you almost dying, but God woke you up to a different life, to what you're living right now. And that's
Yeah.
why I want everyone to know is that everyone has a purpose, everyone has a journey. You have a calling in this life, like Ileana was saying. And it's sad sometimes people don't even get to that point because their life is taken too early, or they, come across with a certain disease or something. But God still has a road for you, a journey. You have a purpose, even
Yeah.
if it's not something big in your life that you're doing, you still have something in your life that you can share to your family members, friends, something of a light, of inspiration, something you can do. It doesn't have to be significant. Just your love and your presence alone can impact someone. So,
Yeah. Amen to that.
amen to that. Well, Eliana, I really appreciate you coming on part two of this episode here. This is just incredible, the story you shared, and just it's a blessing to have you here because I know you went to a point in your life where you didn't, you almost died. So that's wow. By
Yeah.
God's grace, you're still here. Uh, Before we end this, can we go through how they can find you on the different social medias, your links?
Yeah. So for my personal social media, it's at underscore Iliana official. For Past the Dream Foundation is at Past the Dream Foundation. For Echoes and Aesthetics, they can find us both on YouTube and on Instagram at Echoes and Aesthetics. And by the way, I'd like to also do an artist call. You know, the whole point of Echoes and Aesthetics is to find artists, musicians, fashionistas, and any form of creative. So if anybody on here that is watching right now, if you are an artist, if you are a fashionista or just a badass boss, like I want to interview you, I want to bring out your story and tell the world why they should listen to you.
That's right. Yeah. What's your story? That's right. And thank you for having me
Exactly.
on when I went by the studio to come check out your studio. It was great. I loved it. Everyone was so friendly. Just thank you for welcoming me there. It was just like it's just so awesome. So thank you for
Thank you.
to come by
Thank you
and
for
visit.
being there. And I
It's
can't wait to
fun.
interview you at the
Oh
podcast
my
too.
God. I would love to share my story. Yeah, I was just, I'm just so grateful to have good friends in my community and just the circle and just you guys just being such a great support. Because it's just one time someone asked me this, and I'll end it with this, but they asked me, well, why do you do what you do on this podcast? Because I was kind of questioning it last year. I was like, am I meant to do this? She's like, well, why do you do it? I said, because you know what? It makes me happy to hear a story. It
Yeah,
does something to me where every story I've been hearing the past year and a half, it's unique. It's not just like, oh, it's the same one as prior. No, every story I've listened to has inspired me. It has a unique story that touches me and it will touch others. And that's why I love doing what I do because it's just your story. It does matter. Your story does matter.
it matters. It really does.
It does. So. Well, thank you, Eliana, for coming on Rhythm and Roads podcast. And yes, anyone out there wanting to go on her podcast, Echoes and Aesthetics, feel free to reach out to her on her Instagram. And just wow, such blessings your way. I ask God to bless you and your family and everyone, just what you're doing for the community with Past the Dream. And just that's awesome, be that light, be that encouragement. So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you, Eliana, again for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you.